All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
1-800-610-7035, worldwide toll free. This is the X Zone on the X Zone Broadcast Network around the world. And my name is Rob McConnell. Our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And you can always send an email to me here at xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Carl Russo. He is a San Francisco author who has written for the Oakland Tribune, India Wire, and other publications. He was a radio producer and DJ at KUSF in San Francisco. And that was for more than a decade. He fell into love with Sicily on his first trip to the island in 1999 and has returned many times since. In 2010, he started a blog, Mafia Exposed, which became the basis for his book. The name of his book is The Sicilian Mafia, a true crime travel guide. And his website is www.themafiaexposed.com. And Carl, welcome to the X Zone.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Rob.
It's great having you with us tonight. Sicily, what's it like going over there? If you didn't know the mob angle.
Well, that describes me the first time I went back in '99. I went over there just because I am of Southern Italian descent, though not Sicilian, and I knew a little bit about the history. It has such a varied, amazing background, but I didn't know anything about the mafia. Just to visit it, it is truly a dreamy vacation, and it's very affordable too. You maybe spend a third of what you do on mainland Italy, so that had a lot to do with why I went there. But the beaches are amazing. It's the Mediterranean.
Right.
The food is just exquisite. Culturally speaking, my God, you have Greek temples that are, in better shape than anything you'll find in Greece. You have beautiful Baroque churches, Renaissance art, everything. And you still have Sicilian dialects being spoken differently as you go from village to village into the interior. So it's just amazing to visit.
Let me ask you, what possessed you to make a mafia travel guide? Like I've heard of, mind you, on this show I've heard of ghost travel guides, haunted castle travel guides, UFO landing travel guides, but I've never heard of a mafia travel guide.
I've always been interested in actually experiencing history, not just reading about it, but seeing where it took place. Even as a kid, I would go to the local cemetery in a little town in Northern California. Then I'd go look up the newspaper obituaries of 100 years ago, and with my list of names I've taken off the tombstones, and find out how these people died. Actually, a lot of them were sort of a Wild West shootout kind of a death up in Sonoma County. But as far as Sicily goes, I only learned in bits and pieces about the Sicilian Mafia. While I was there, it was a couple of waiters that sort of befriended me on a slow night in a bar, and we were chatting, and then a young lady comes in, and one of them makes a crack. Don't talk to her. She's the boss's daughter. And I thought they meant the boss of the bar. No, it turned out she was the big boss's daughter, and you don't talk to her.
Ooh,
that
boy.
was it. And I thought, Sicilian Mafia? I thought that was just, from the old days.
Yeah.
I know there was an American Mafia, but I had no idea that the Sicilian Mafia still exists, and the history of it is so pretty much unknown to normal Americans who grew up watching the Godfather movies. The Hollywood depiction of mafia bosses is completely different. So there's when you visit, it's an invisible force over there. You don't know that the mafia is there, but they're still shaking down the merchants. The protection racket still goes. And I just went out and found as many of the locations as I could find. Just briefly, I'm talking about murder sites where the Godfathers lived, where they hung out, some of their clubs. and back to the cemeteries where the victims are buried.
Unbelievable. Let me ask you quickly, we're coming up to our first break. Have you always been interested in the mafia, or is this something that you just started having an interest in when you were over in Sicily?
Yeah, I was not a true crime buff at all. As a kid, I read a couple of books, the Valachi papers and a few others, and then I lost interest. But because I had fallen in love with Sicily and saw this oppression going on over there, I got more interested.
All right, Carl, please stand by. You and I have to take our first commercial break. Exonation Carl Russo is our very special guest this hour. We're talking about Carl's book. It's entitled The Sicilian Mafia, a True Crime Travel Guide. And I don't know why I'm having a problem with that.
Tongue twister.
Yeah, it is. All right, let's try this again. The Sicilian Mafia, a True Crime Travel Guide. And Carl and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break. And while we're on commercial, why don't you visit his website at www.themafiaexposed.com. The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, is coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, worldwide on the X Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. Carl Russo is my special guest, and he's the author of The Sicilian Mafia, a True Crime Travel Guide. His blog is Mafia Exposed, and his website is www.themafiaexposed.com. com. So tell me, here you are, you're over in Sicily, you're sitting in a restaurant, you befriend a couple of waiters, the boss's daughter walks in, and how did you actually find the places in Sicily where the mafia had done their job?
Well, when I went back, I think it was my third or fourth time in April 2006, I landed in Sicily, in Palermo, a week after they caught the most wanted Sicilian mafia boss, Godfather Bernardo Provenzano. And he'd been on the run since 1963.
Wow.
And the circumstances were so strange. He lorded over Corleone. Now, you remember Don Corleone, Vito Corleone from The Godfather. It's an actual mafia stronghold in the central western part of Sicily. Now, this guy was a strange ascetic. He had Bibles that were annotated. He had crosses around his neck. On the walls of this little shack were posters of saints, religious imagery, and when they busted down the door, he just smiled. It was the strangest thing. This actually made worldwide news because he was the number one most wanted fugitive. And I said, I have to go see this little shack. It was a ricotta cheese-making shack up in the mountains above Corleone, his hometown. And here he had all this power, but he was living this real protected life. Like I said, he was sort of like a monk, and they caught him. How they caught him was very interesting. It was his wife that lived downtown, down in the valley, and they would send his clean laundry in exchange for his dirty laundry through a series of relayed drivers up to this mountain. And the guy that owned the property where the shack was, he made a lot of ricotta cheese, and his spring water was especially valued. So the citizens of Corleone didn't know, but they were buying all of their water and cheese from the guy who was, harboring Bernardo Provenzano. I had to find that shack. The police were still there at the end of the road. I drove past them and photographed the shack. There were a few other mafia sites I wanted to see, and that's when it hit me that there really is no book like this. So I made the book.
Tell me, while you were doing the research for your book and visiting all these mafia sites, did you run into any trouble?
Well, yes, not with the mafia either, with the police. Probably the stupidest thing I did, well, I did a couple of dumb things, but, working undercover, no one knew what I was doing. There's a little anti-mafia museum in Corleone now, and they gave me some information about where Provenzano's partner, the vicious mafia boss, Toto Riina, had built this mansion that he never got to live in because he was busted and thrown in prison.
Right.
So I went traipsing up the hill, and I found this building according to their instructions. I was a little off. It turned out it was a police station.
Oh, boy.
And Italian police are paramilitary. I mean, they all carry submachine guns. They saw me taking a photo of this building, and they rushed me, and they interrogated me, fortunately right there in the street. This was the finance guard, and these are the guys that actually go in and confiscate mafia bosses' assets. They'll actually show up, take the guys away, take their bank accounts, and they're tough guys.
Yeah.
So it's the older officer, the senior officer, he believed me when I simply told him I was at the Mafia Museum, and this is they told me this was the house of Toto Riina. The young guy kind of seemed like a rookie to me. He really had a stink eye for me. They made me erase the digital image, and everything was fine. And it turns out it was 2 doors down, this pink mansion. So I got the shot of that. That was one of 3 incidents I ran into with the police. But I did have some pretty scary moments. I took a picture of a building in downtown Palermo, Sicily's capital, of a building that belonged to one of the top mafia bosses in the early 70s, Stefano Bontate. He was instrumental in setting up the Pizza Connection. That was the heroin distribution ring on the east coast of the U.S., you might remember. And I took the photo, and this man saw me, and he came running out, hauling out directly at me. And I had my rental car idling in the street, and I just got in and took off. So I had to go to some pretty grim places, for all the beautiful sights that I saw and photographed. There were some real grim, tough neighborhoods.
So-
housing project.
So